Some places don't need fences. They don't need warning signs. Everyone who lives nearby already knows. They lower their voice when it's mentioned. They cross the street instead of walking past. And when someone asks why, the answer is always the same. You don't go there. Not because it's dangerous, but because something there notices when you do. The people in these stories were warned by locals, by friends, by instinct, but curiosity has a way of sounding reasonable. Just one look, just one night, just to see if the stories were true. What they experienced didn't chase them, it didn't scream, it waited. Tonight, you'll hear 3 true horror stories from real places people were told to avoid. These are not urban legends or internet fiction. They are first-hand accounts from individuals who ignored warnings and entered locations locals refused to talk about. Abandoned houses, isolated roads, places that seem ordinary until you stay too long. Nothing dramatic happened at first, and that's what made it worse. What connects these stories isn't violence or tragedy. It's the feeling that something was already there, watching. A presence that didn't want attention, but reacted once it received it. These are true scary stories, real experiences, and every single one began with the same mistake: not listening. The first story takes place in a quiet town where one abandoned house stood untouched for years. During the day, it looked harmless. At night, no one walked past it. The house sat at the edge of a quiet residential street. It wasn't boarded up, it wasn't burned down. From the outside, it looked like any other abandoned home left behind by time. But the locals treated it differently. During the day, people passed it without much thought. At night, they crossed the street. When asked about the house, no one told stories. No one explained what happened there. They simply said not to walk past it after dark. Some laughed it off, others avoided the question entirely. The warning was always the same: stay away at night. The person who shared this story didn't believe in haunted houses. Curiosity felt harmless. One evening, just after midnight, they decided to walk past the house alone. Not to enter it, just to prove to themselves that fear came from imagination, not reality. As they approached, the street became unnaturally quiet. No cars, no wind, even the insects seemed to disappear. The house looked darker than the others, as if it absorbed the light around it. Halfway past the house, they felt it, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Not from a window, not from behind, but from inside the house itself, as if something was aware of their presence the moment they stepped too close. They stopped walking, and that was the moment they heard it. A slow, deliberate sound coming from inside the house. Not footsteps, not breathing. Something closer to movement, but without rhythm. The sound stopped the moment they moved again. They didn't run. They walked, slowly, afraid that any sudden movement would draw attention. The moment they reached the next street light, the pressure lifted. The sound never followed. The house returned to silence. The next morning, they asked a neighbor about the house. The neighbor didn't ask what happened, didn't look surprised. They only said one thing: people who stop in front of that house at night don't always leave feeling alone. The road wasn't hidden. It appeared on maps. It connected 2 towns and saved nearly 20 minutes of driving. During the day, locals used it without hesitation. At night, after 11, they took the long way around. When asked why, people didn't say it was dangerous. They said it was wrong. One person mentioned strange lights. Another talked about losing time. Most just said the same thing: if you're still on that road after 11, don't stop. The driver in this story had heard the warnings and ignored them. It was late, they were tired, the road looked empty and harmless. At exactly 11:10, they turned onto it, expecting nothing more than a quiet drive home. 10 minutes passed, then 20. The road felt longer than it should have been. The radio crackled before cutting out completely. Phone signal dropped to nothing.
The forest on both sides seemed closer than before. The driver noticed something ahead, a shape standing near the edge of the road. It didn't move as the car approached, no attempt to flag them down, no reaction at all, just standing there, facing the road. As the car passed the figure, the driver glanced into the side mirror. The road behind them looked different, longer, darker, as if it stretched farther than it should have. The figure was gone. That was when the car stalled. The engine didn't die, it simply lost power. Silence filled the vehicle. Remembering the warning, the driver didn't step out, didn't turn off the engine, and most importantly, didn't stop watching the mirrors. After what felt like several minutes, the engine regained power without explanation. The driver didn't slow down again. When the road finally ended, the town lights appeared suddenly, as if they had always been there. At home, the driver noticed the time. Nearly an hour had passed. The drive should have taken 15 minutes. When they told someone the next day, the response was immediate. That's why no one stops on that road.
The place didn't have a name most people used. Locals referred to it indirectly. The old site, the closed property, the place near the woods. It wasn't fenced off, there were no warning signs, but whenever someone mentioned looking into it, the reaction was immediate. Don't investigate it, just leave it alone. What made the warning unsettling wasn't fear, it was certainty. No one sounded nervous, no one sounded emotional. They spoke as if they already knew how the story ended, as if curiosity itself was the mistake. The person who shared this story wasn't looking for thrills, they were researching the area's history, old records, archived articles, public documents. At first, everything seemed ordinary, a few inconsistencies, missing dates, names that appeared once and never again. The strange part didn't happen at the site, it started at home. Small things at first. Documents disappearing and reappearing in different rooms. Sounds late at night that didn't belong to the house. The sense of being interrupted while reading. The more they researched, the more frequent the disturbances became. Not violent, not threatening, just persistent, as if something was reacting to the attention. Not anger, awareness. One night, while reviewing old photographs connected to the site, the power went out. The house fell silent. In the darkness, they heard movement. Not footsteps, not outside, somewhere between rooms. When the power returned, one photograph on the desk had changed position, turned face down. No explanation, no sign of forced entry. That was the moment they understood the warning. It was never about the place itself. They stopped researching, stopped asking questions, stopped returning to the site. The disturbances slowly faded, not immediately, gradually, like something losing interest once it was no longer being watched. They never learned what really happened there, and they no longer want to, because some places don't hide their secrets. They react to being noticed. Every place in these stories had something in common. There were no locks, no barriers, no official warnings, just people who knew better. They didn't try to explain, they didn't argue, they simply avoided these places, as if attention itself was enough to cause something to respond. Whether it was a house, a road, or a forgotten site, the warning was never about danger, it was about presence, being seen, being noticed, and what happens when curiosity crosses an invisible line. The people who ignored those warnings eventually left, but none of them described feeling alone afterward. Something stayed with them, not physically, not visibly, just a lingering sense that some places don't end when you walk away from them. And maybe that's why locals don't explain, because once you understand what to avoid, you don't need details, you just listen. If you have a true story connected to a place you were warned about, you already know why it matters. Those stories tend to stay quiet until they're shared. Some warnings exist for a reason, and some places never asked to be understood.